Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we are checking out my mild mode 1cc of Gunvein on Nintendo Switch. This just hit the eShop, and this is actually a game that I have been waiting and just stoked to check out ever since they announced shared the first screenshots or like a video or whatever it was on Twitter way back. It feels like another life at this point because it was just so long ago, but it's finally here. So I think this is just going to be a mix of my initial impressions and some of the, we'll probably get into like some of the actual game related stuff, like this run in particular, and just stuff like that. But I think one of the things that initially gripped me when I first heard about the game was just the combination of mechanics. There was just something about it that really reminded me of Crimson Clover, and that just really spoke to me at the time. Now, mild mode, I'm not sure like where that really sits in terms of like what a normal mode might be like. I think the next step up is like mentioned for like experienced players. But what I found really enjoyable about mild mode is that it still provides a nice challenge, and it still certainly feels like like just a blast of a time. Like it's really cool. Everything plays well here, controls well. I was fiddling around with some different like button mapping methods for this, because one thing I notice when it comes to games with lock-on systems is that it's got to be like the positioning has to be like very specific, otherwise it just feels uncomfortable to play. And I know like it was the same thing with Crimson Clover. Like sometimes games like won't even really have the most preferable way to go about it. If I'm being honest, I would love to have, like for games that specifically use a lock-on system, I would love to just have like a foot pedal where I can just push my foot down and do that. Because even like with what I have set up here, it's not the most ideal based on like what I would like to be doing, but it works. So it's nothing against the game. I think that's just generally how it's going to go when certain mechanics are in place. I think I could even just elaborate on that a little more. Like, so one thing I really enjoy doing is like I'll use the R trigger for like a bomb, like in any given shmup where I can do that, and then I'll use ZL for like my slowdown, like my focus shot, and then B for just like regular rapid fire or whatever, like your auto fire. And then if there's a hyper mode or something additional, then that can just be Y or whatever. And that works great on most games. And then of course like the D-pad. But with this in particular, I noticed that didn't feel the most appropriate, because to like be locking on doing your focus shot, like your slow motion, there's like a split second where it kind of just interferes with what I'm doing with the D-pad, even though it's like two separate like fingers. And so I did a bit of fiddling around. What I'm doing right now is certainly different than that, and like I said, it works. But yeah, it's just interesting to see what kind of games or like what kind of challenges you can face in a game like a shmup compared to other shmups, just from what mechanics are involved and like what button preferences you might have. But anyway, let's talk about the game a little bit. The first thing I noticed when I got into this was just how incredible the music is. This is probably got to be like one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a shmup in ages, like quite some time. Like it's just totally my kind of like feeling, and I'm not exactly sure if people from the, like, if any of the same people who did Ghostblade worked on here, I kind of suspect they did, but I'm not sure, because I haven't really looked into that myself. But my other initial thought was just, wow, this game looks like Ghostblade, like the visual style, like it looks as if this could just be like another Ghostblade game by the same people or something like that. I did look up just like one or two names, and there was like a Hellwig, I think it was. I think Renee, if I'm saying that correctly, Hellwig, worked on Ghostblade, and then I think a Tim Hellwig worked on this one. So I'm not sure what the connection is there exactly. But I feel like there's probably got to be some sort of overlap between the two games, because this just, like I said, feels like a Ghostblade game, like big time. Like the visuals alone are just like a huge indication, in my opinion anyway, but I could be mistaken. I'm sure someone else probably knows that stuff already, so if you want to share that in the comments, feel free. But yeah, like in terms of the boss designs and like enemy designs, I think the visual, like the art style and the boss design, like the enemies look cool, but I think the bosses in particular is when you really get to see a nice showcase of just how awesome the work is here that they put together. Because like we just have like these massive robots with all sorts of really cool details hidden here. And interestingly enough, there are some really awesome attacks that are refreshing. That was a really brutal hit. I remember taking that and being like, you gotta be joking me, like, as if. That never happens, but it did this time. And this is a wild attack too. Reminiscent of like stuff in Mushihime-sama. But yeah, there's some attacks that are just refreshingly different, that kind of throw stuff your way and kind of bring about like unexpected situations until you, of course, know what to do next time. And I always like that when attack patterns operate or behave in different ways, and it keeps things interesting. With mild cleared up the same, like this didn't even really take, this is actually my second clear on mild. I did one earlier. I didn't even realize I was fighting against the final boss, and then suddenly it was just like, oh, 1 CC, and that kind of caught me off guard. But of course I wasn't recording at the time, so I just did another run. But it only took a handful of attempts to get that first 1 CC, just like 2 or 3 runs or something like that. So like I said, like it will pose a bit of a challenge, but it gives you an insane amount of resources to work with. Now, one thing, for those who know how the game works with the whole like bomb and get medals and all this stuff, I was ignoring that because like I think in ways it's not that I'm opposed to playing that way, but if I don't need to, then I prefer to just dodge things, because to me that's more engaging. Like if there isn't really a threat and I'm not playing for score anyway, then there's really no reason to use my bombs. But it's an interesting, I think if I was to get into the harder difficulties, which I'll touch on that in a minute, then that's probably when it would become more relevant for me. Or if I just connect with the game in a certain way and really get into the mechanics, then that's when I might really want to just go to town with like just playing the game with everything that they give you, kind of like with Rolling Gunner Expert mode. Like I don't rank control in that because it's more fun to push the rank and use your hypers whenever you want and just soak up as much gold, whereas in this, like I don't really feel like, I think the game is really cool. I like it a lot. There's a lot of awesome stuff going on here, but at the same time, I don't feel like I'm clicking with it enough to just feel gripped and just go all in with like I do with some games. And that could just be because like, yeah, I've got a lot on the go. I haven't actually been playing too many shooters the last week. I've kind of been focusing on like non-shmup games, which I can touch on in a minute too. So it could be a combination of things, but like at the same time, it might be a situation where in a day or two, or just even playing a little more tonight or whatever the case is, I might just get that much more into it. But we'll see. But yeah, just briefly, like in other news, yeah, I played through Nuclear Blaze the other day. It was a really cool game, and then I think I played through Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, and then Luminous Avengers IX2, which by the same people, of course. Yeah, really cool games, but so yeah, like I haven't really been, like I'm still playing Rolling Gunner daily, not like huge amounts at this point. I'll just boot up for a few minutes here and there and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've just been like prioritizing other things and working on stuff here. But when I saw that this was finally coming out, this was a day one purchase no matter what. And I think in other news, there's a new hamster. I don't recall what the name is. It's like Mazinger or something like that, by Hamster. It's like their new Arcade Archives entry for that series, and it looks really, really cool. I do aim to check it out. I'm just not sure when I'll get around to it. But I realized it's been over a week since I put out a video. And even like when it comes to like the Coffee and Shmups episodes and stuff like that, things have just been so swamped. I haven't even been thinking about that yet, but there's going to be something coming for sure very, very soon. So anyway, we're about 12 minutes in. We got 12 minutes to go. I'm not sure if, like, I know there's a TLB, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the way it operates is like it's just kind of like an additional section that comes off of the final boss, and then you just do this like fight. It's not like it's not like a whole separate boss from my understanding. It's just like part of the final boss. But that doesn't trigger here, and I'm not sure what the conditions are for that, because it obviously isn't just like once he's seeing the game, that doesn't really do anything. Or maybe it's not even in mild mode. It might just be reserved for I'm not sure what the other ones are called. Intense, I think, and extreme or something like that. But that's something I would like to dip into. Yeah, especially if I do get so into this that I'd want to push further and further, but we'll see. I think there are a couple of little fumbles here or something. I really didn't want to risk that, but... And of course, like, it's not like I've practiced any of this stuff, so some of this, like that right there, is just a silly hit because I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And like that, just like waiting to take it for no reason. Like, what? But in terms of the... like, I did go over the tutorial, but I think after the fact, I just jumped in and just started playing it like more traditionally, and so I didn't even really think about the scoring or getting extra lives, so I don't really recall how that all works at this point. But I'm pretty sure like it's linked to just bombing a ton and just getting a ton of stars or something to that effect. But again, I could be mistaken. But yeah, I do think it is neat that they pack versatility into the bomb mechanics, because for those of you who don't know, excuse me, you can collect the bomb fragments, and then when you have like a full 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think 10, yeah, when you have a full 10 fragments, you get another bomb in your slot up to a maximum of 3, and so you can hold down the bomb button and spend 5 of those fragments to be invincible for just like a short period. And I think that's a really cool idea too. I don't think I've ever really seen that where the bomb button is like multifunctional. So that was really cool to see. I don't think I might have used it once just to see what it was like, but for the most part, like the way I was playing in mild mode, it was like, well, okay, there are some threats, sure, but for the most part, if something is a big enough threat, then I'm just bombing anyway, and I don't need to like fiddle around with like using fragments just to be invincible for a while. So in ways, like, I'm not sure if part of the reason I'm not fully clicking is because there are just a bunch of things that I just find unnecessary, or at least for mild mode in particular. Because again, like, maybe on the harder difficulties, things are so intense that you will want to make use of, or I will want to make use of, just like more of those resources or options, like who knows. And I have jumped into intense mode just to sample things a bit, and I think I made it to like stage 3 or something on the first and second attempts, but the pressure does go up quite a bit. I'm gonna get some water because my throat is a little raspy right now. And I think this is the final stage, yeah. But yeah, really wicked backgrounds, like, just look at that. And this is another great song. And really cool enemy designs, too. I just love these turrets that just kind of like... It's almost like a head tilting just to like track your position. It's so cool seeing that kind of stuff. Now, when I did the first clear, that was like down to the wire. I was like one hit away from just losing the run for like the entire... Oh, I'm not sure what it was. But I'm pretty sure it was like maybe the last half of the boss's health or something like that. Like pretty much the entirety of like the final attack pattern. And somehow I didn't get hit. But then this time around went much different because I had that little bit of extra experience and awareness of what was going to happen. But yeah, I cannot get over the music in this game. It's so good. And also something else that I remember the tutorial covered this, but I don't recall what the deal was. But with the whole like the letters ready that you like fill up gradually, I don't recall what that's about or how that, like what fuels that or what the effect is with the ×8. So if I'm gonna get serious about the game, then obviously I'll go over that stuff and actually know what's what. Another thing that I'm not sure about is like when when your ship says safe, like right over top or wherever it's positioned, and then sometimes I'll hear this like zing sound, like, and I'm not sure if it's like you have a shield and then if you take a hit the shield's gone but you don't lose a life until you take another hit, unless of course you replenish the shield. That's kind of like what it feels like, but I don't recall seeing anything about that. But again, it's not like I went over everything in depth and like even memorized it. It was just like a very quick skim when I was recording my first look, and I was gonna do commentary for that, but then when I ended up clearing it, I was like, oh, okay, well, I might as well just record and clear it again and then just use that as my video for sharing my thoughts. So that's kind of like how things went. But yeah, one thing I always love is just there's never any confusion in this game in terms of where bullets are. And so obviously that was handled very well. So not every game does that. But yeah, like there's nothing blending in so that you can't, yeah, figure out what's what and where things are. So 3 lives and 2 bombs at this point. I'm feeling pretty confident, of course. Because, like, yeah, sure, you can trip up a little bit like I just did there. That was just, like, silly, lazy, like, just flying right into the side of something. But for the most part, if you're making it here with those kinds of resources, then you'll probably do just fine. And the fact that I just got a life there too, I was like, okay, there's no way we're not gonna get this. Now, I think I might take another hit somewhere. I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure I finished the run with only 1 life gone from the maximum. Oh yeah, that's where I took a hit. I'm sure there's an easier way to, like, position for that attack in particular, but yeah. Anyway, that's the 1cc. That's the clear of Gunvein. So yeah, there you have it. I haven't used... I'm not sure what color it is. I've sampled the green ship just very, very briefly, but not the other one, the blue one. So yeah, it would be neat to... Oh, there's the name Renee Hellwig again. So yeah, definitely like some of the same peeps. But yeah, phenomenal music. Just such a cool game. Actually, one thing I'm interested in checking out now is if they have different borders, which I'm assuming they would, because the ones here look like they desperately want you to switch to something else. They're just like very plain. And yeah, not so inspiring. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for checking this out and just being here and being supportive. I really, really appreciate everybody for swinging by and commenting and keeping it positive and friendly. I really appreciate that. And yeah, maybe I'll do a few runs tonight or get at some other things. We'll see. But anyway, one more thing I want to say actually is just this song right here. I could listen to this for 90,000 hours and never tire of it. Oh my god. And I think after the first clear, I just sat and listened to this for quite a while. And that's another rare thing when menu music is just so good that you just want to sit. And it was the same when I did Devil Engine. Like between runs, I would just sit and listen to... I had switched it to like one of the alternate songs where it's like a slow motion version of one of my favorites from, I think, stage 4. Yeah, it's like a vaporwave. It's a vaporwave like yeah, version or something. But yeah, anyway, this is amazing, awesome stuff, and yeah, thanks, and we will see you next time.